Hello guys, welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Dolapo, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing a few things I wish I knew before studying abroad in the UK. Now, I've been in the UK for about 2 years now. I came to the UK to study a master's program in public health and international development at the University of Sheffield, and that was in 2022. Now, I thought I was all prepared to start my studying abroad, but these are a few things that I wish I knew before I actually traveled abroad or traveled to the UK to start my studies. The first one on my list is I wish I knew that getting a part-time job in the UK as an international student is not as easy as people make it to seem. I'm telling you right now, like people make it look like, oh, the moment you land in the UK, that you apply for a job and you will get it. First of all, there are some things you have to do, like getting an NI number and actually even applying for these jobs. And even if it was easy like years ago, it's not easy now. So I wish I was prepared for that. And to be honest, because I came on a fully funded scholarship, I wasn't really so keen on getting a part-time job because I felt like my scholarship allowance I was receiving was going to be enough. But then I discovered that, I had to save up and there are things I would need to do after my studies, like saving up for my post-study visa and things like that. So I also needed to get like a part-time job. So essentially, if you wanted to get like a really good part-time job, you are probably going to be limited to the amount of hours you have to work per week as a student. Now, that makes it already quite difficult to get a job because most jobs require you to work full time. So at the end of the day, you're limited to just like certain part-time jobs, like working in care or being a support worker or working in a factory or things like that. So eventually I was able to get a part-time job as working as a student ambassador in the university I was studying in. Now that wasn't like a consistent flow of income, but I was able to kind of manage with that because I had my scholarship allowance as well. So if you are not coming to the UK on a fully funded scholarship, please don't believe the lies that people are saying that once you come, in fact, the way they'll say, just come, just come. They'll say, don't worry, just come. You will see something, you will get something. But you have to be mentally prepared that there are only certain jobs that you can get part-time if you are in the UK as an international student. So that's one of the first things I wish I kind of was prepared for, because in my head I was thinking it's going to be easy to get a part-time job, like a good, well-paying part-time job while I'm studying and things like that. But it didn't turn out that way. So essentially I had to kind of like work as a student ambassador, and that gave me like really good experience that I needed later on after my studies. So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say I wish I knew before studying abroad in the UK is that you have to know how to write an academic essay, especially if you're coming to do like your masters in the UK. Like the educational system is so different from back home. I studied in Russia and I studied medicine, so I didn't really have to write like academic essays and things like that. I did some research projects, but they were not really, really like academically inclined, if you get what I mean. But coming to do my master's in the UK, I realized that most of like your assignments, your projects, your assessments are like academic essays. I think all through my master's program, the only assessment I did that was an exam was one. The rest of them were literally back-to-back essays. Like you'll be writing essays of 1,500 words. You'll be writing essays of like 2,000 words, 2,500 words. Like my dissertation was like almost 15,000 words. Till now, I don't know how I was able to do that dissertation. I would say it was only God. And I even had a distinction. I would say it was only God, because how to even come up with those words, do your research, form the whole body of literature, your literature, like there are so many things. Of course, during your master's program, you're going to be like taught on how to write academic essays. You'll be taking some classes or modules that will teach you on different forms of like academic writings, like literature reviews, systematic reviews, things like that. So it's not like as if they'll just put you in the loop and say, oh, go and start writing academic essays. You'll be given some promptings, you'll be given some advice and all. But even with that, you still have to sit down and learn a lot of things yourself. Like, I had to read a lot of academic essays to actually get what I'm supposed to do. I had help and support from my lecturers and things like that, but you still have to do your own research. You still have to sit down in the library, at your home, wherever you are, and actually put in so much work. I remember I posted a video on my Instagram while I was doing my master's, and I think the video was just talking about how I had a deadline and I hadn't even come up with like up to 100 words. And there were so many people that could relate to that video, that people that were doing their masters or have done their masters, that could really relate to that video, because honestly, it's not easy. So I wish I was prepared. I wish I'd probably started learning more about academic essays before coming to the UK to start my studies. Probably that would have given me more like insight. I would have had an idea, because I literally had to start from scratch when I came here. Like, I had to start learning from the beginning, like word for word, what I needed to do, what the structure is, and things like that. And thankfully, I had a lot of help and support. My supervisor was just awesome. So he really like broke things down for me. So it's not everyone that is lucky to have that. And especially if you're coming with like family and things like that, you might not have as much time to study as you'd want to. So please, before you come here, before you start your studies, whether it's your undergraduate or your master's program or even a PhD, have some kind of idea or knowledge about how to write academic essays, how to write like a dissertation and things like that. You don't have to know it 100% before you come, but just have an idea about it. So that's the second thing I wish I knew before I came to study here in the UK. Now, the third thing that I wish I knew, oh my God, and this one hits me so hard, is how lonely it can be, especially if you are traveling alone. If you didn't travel with like family, maybe your wife, your husband, or your children, it can get so, in fact, not that it can get, it is very lonely. Now, if you stay in like a student accommodation, of course, you're going to have the opportunity to like see people and meet people, because you're going to have flatmates. You probably share a kitchen, or if you're in like an accommodation where you share bathroom and toilet, so that gives you like interaction. But what if you don't like your housemates? Like, what if you don't get along with your housemates? That means that most times you're going to be in your room. And that's where things like church, community, and, having friends as like my classmates who now became my friends, that was where all of that really played, because I came alone, I traveled alone. So at some point, I was so lonely. Thankfully, during Christmas time, I have family in the UK who I go to visit. So that really helps me. So I would advise that, just prepare your mind that it can get really, really lonely. And that's because, everybody is kind of moving on with their lives. Even the friends that you have, they also have things going on in their lives. Like, so it's not like you guys are going to be hanging out every day. And if you are living alone, or if you're someone that likes to live alone, essentially you probably want to be at home most time, because the weather will be too cold. You don't want to go out. You literally, you just want to go to school or go to uni and then come back home, eat and sleep. Like, that will probably be your routine. Like, if you maybe have like other things that you are doing outside of that. Like me, I had church as well. So that really helped me. So I was going to church, I was going for Bible studies and things like that. So that gave me the opportunity to like interact with people. So I really wish I was prepared for that. I knew that I've heard stories about it, that living abroad can be lonely, but I didn't realize that it was going to be that lonely. There are times I cried. There are times I was almost booking flights to go home. And I'm grateful I didn't do that, because I can't imagine using all my savings to literally book a flight to go to Nigeria and then come back. So there were times it really, really hit me. And I was like, oh, I can't believe, like, do I really want to keep staying here and things like that? So it can get really lonely. So I wish I knew that, and definitely prepare your mind for that. The next thing that I wish I knew before studying abroad in the UK was actually the fact that there is a big, wide difference between my culture back home and the culture here. Like, I had to learn how to adjust to the culture, to the way things are here. And that was kind of like, I would say it was a bit difficult for me at the beginning. Now, I've studied abroad before, I've studied in Russia before, but Russia and UK, they're two totally different places. Like, the way life was in Russia was different from the way life was in the UK. And because I also went back to Nigeria for a few years, so I was already kind of acclimatizing myself to the culture in Nigeria before coming to the UK. So kind of what I was already used to was Nigerian culture before coming here. And it's so different from here. Like the people are so different, the way of life is so different, and you have to learn how to adjust. So one of the things I would say I wish I knew was probably maybe I'd done more research on things like maybe the city I'm coming to live in, what kind of amenities do they have there, what's the way of life there. And to be honest, in terms of like preparing for that, you can't really prepare for that culture shock, because sometimes it just hits you. Like you can be aware, you can have a knowledge that okay, this is how life in the UK is, but I can't say that you would be so prepared, because it's when you start living in the UK that you start kind of like understanding like the way of life and things like that. Like in terms of like food, in terms of like the transportation, how Google Map will essentially have to be your best friend when you come to the UK, in terms of like how people live their lives. Like there are things that we in Nigeria will see, or in Nigeria where I'm from, I will see it as there is no way I can do that. And over here is like a normal. Do you get? So I had to kind of adjust to that. And I also had to learn how to be kind of like more delicate in the things that I say. In Nigeria, we kind of like would, of course, in Nigeria, we kind of say some things to people that are close to. Do you get what I'm saying? Like you can say, you can literally joke with your friends, with things that you guys will see as joke. But over here, they don't see it as joke. So you have to be very careful with your words. You have to be kind of careful and really delicate in how you speak to people. And over here, I always say sorry. And you're like, why are you saying sorry? I'm like, it's something that I used to back home. So, things, minor things like that really counts eventually. So actually, when I started working in an organization in the UK, and I had to start working with like colleagues that are from the UK, and I was like, oh my God, I really need to learn how to adjust. Of course, be yourself. So I make sure that I'm myself, but at the same time, when you're working with people, in order to be able to work well with them, you also have to kind of understand their culture, because you are in their country, if you get what I mean. So those are some of the things that I wish I probably knew or prepared myself mentally for, that there's going to be a huge culture shock when I come. Here, the people are nice. I don't think I've ever faced like any form of racism or discrimination in my place of work. So I'm grateful for that. Essentially, I wish that I'd prepared myself more mentally in terms of like the culture shock. The way people live here is totally different from back home. And now the final thing that I would say I wish I knew before coming to the UK to study was the fact that I will have to live a more independent life. And this is kind of related to my other points about loneliness and things like that, but not in the sense of being lonely, but in the sense of actually being more independent. I'm not saying that in Nigeria, where I'm from, I wasn't independent, but you know how even if as you're independent, your friend lives maybe 10 minutes away from you, or your mom or your dad live like maybe 20 minutes away from you. Like you can literally just con, I need beans, or con, my Gary has finished, or give me Gary. Do you get what I'm saying? Like the way like I don't know how to put it, like you literally have, your community around you. Life is literally just more independent. I'm trying to think of how to explain it, but essentially I had to learn how to be more independent here. And given that, for example, if I had to do my food shopping, my grocery shopping, personal shopping and things like that, that's fine. I do that back home. But then the fact that in Nigeria, I could literally just go to a friend's house or my family member's house. But I hope you guys get what I mean. So essentially, I wish I knew that life was going to be more independent when I come here. Essentially, you are caring for yourself, you are fending for yourself. Like there's no, except maybe your parents are around or you have family around, but there's nothing like, mommy, give me urgent 2K. People are more conscious about how they spend here, because you have so much bills to pay and things like that. Anyway, that's like the final thing I can think of that I would say I wish I knew before coming to the UK to study. So for some of you who are already studying in the UK or have studied in the UK, let me know in the comment section, what are the things that you wish you knew before studying abroad in the UK. And if you haven't come yet and you're probably preparing to come, I hope that this video was helpful and probably gave you like some perspective, but it's not to discourage you. Of course, there are still so many lovely things I've learned. The journey so far has been wonderful. I'm actually grateful and glad that I'm here. And looking back, yes, the beginning time was a bit rough trying to adjust to things like that, but then looking back, I can say that for sure it was worth it. So this is not to discourage you from coming, but these are just some things that I wish that I knew and I'd prepared for before coming. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and leave a comment, and also subscribe if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet. And I'll see you in my next video. Goodbye.